Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. I am Eric Orton,
I'm Emily Orton.
and today we're going to talk about how to get your kids to stop rolling their eyes at you. Have you ever had that happen? Have you ever had our kids roll their
I
eyes?
mean, not anymore.
Our kids are professionals at rolling their eyeballs back into their head. But yeah, they don't do that anymore. So anyway, we'll share with you one of the ways that has really helped us help our kids not even want to roll their eyes at us. So Exhibit A, Emily.
So here's an example of we recently saw a young adult, an adult daughter rolling eyes at her mother. So we were chatting with this mother and daughter, and the mother was expressing to us how she was super excited to maybe someday consider going on an Alaskan cruise. She said, we have an anniversary coming up in a couple of years. I've had friends who've gone on this cruise. This cruise could be really amazing. It could be so fun. I just aspire to it. I've been dreaming about it. And her daughter rolled her eyes.
Hard
eye roll.
I think it was like a little bit of a head roll.
It was kind of like a full body sport. This roll and the groan, this was like a reenactment. And
do you see that? I'll show you. Oh, like that.
If that may be
happen?
a familiar sound or sight to you, you're not alone. And then she said, I've been hearing about this trip for 10 years. And we wrapped up our conversation and they left and we kind of got back to our life. And I just couldn't get this out of my head about this Alaskan cruise. And Eric was trying to get some work done and I just interrupted him I bet she never even looked into it. I bet she's never even looked up the price of Alaskan cruise. I wonder how much an Alaskan cruise costs.
That's a game for me.
Why is this taking 10 years to fulfill this dream? It's not a trip to the moon. So we just stopped what we were doing and Eric Googled, what did you find?
I just Googled Alaskan cruise and there's all kinds of options, but there's, one way, two way, but you can also just do cabin with no view, cabin facing out with upper, lower views. There's all kinds of levels, but
we've never been on a cruise, so we didn't even know what to look for.
We genuinely had no idea, but we looked it up, and if we wanted to go on an Alaskan cruise, we could go for $273 per person. $273. Now, I'm sure there's excursions and the airfare to get there and all that sort of stuff, but the cruise itself, $273. So this woman's dreams could come true for under $600.
Yeah.
And with airfare, somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000 probably. 10 years of dreaming.
10 years of dreaming for this. So, hey, I have no issues with someone having a dream and it taking a long time to get there. That does happen. But this one seemed so achievable for this woman in this circumstance that for her to not have taken action already, that's why her daughter was rolling her eyes about it, because you could see that her mom did not have credibility with her in this space because her ratio of talking about it to actually doing something about it was so high that her daughter was like, yeah, this is never going to happen. All we're going to do is talk about this, and I'm tired of this conversation. That's why I'm rolling my eyes. I'm not saying that's respectful. I don't recommend that if you are the adult child.
Cool.
Not cool.
Okay.
But it does happen. So what can we do?
Can I talk about credibility score for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so you all have a credit score. If you're an adult, you have a credit score, whether you know it or not. And chances are you know what it is or the range that it's in. You also, whether you know it or not, have a credibility score with yourself and with your kids. And with your kids, when your credibility score is low, that's when they roll their eyeballs. When your credibility score is high, they just take you seriously when you say you're going to do something. So the ratio of what you say to what you do, the closer that is to 1-to-1, the more credibility you have. If you're all talk and no action, then you have a low credibility score. And when you bring those in line, this is when your kids do not roll their eyeballs, because they take you seriously and they believe you, they trust you. And when your credibility score is low, when there's a disparity between what you say you're going to do and what you do, that's when they roll their eyeballs.
I will say, even if you do what you say you're going to do, if you tell bad jokes, they're still going to roll their eyeballs.
Come on.
But we had personal experience with this when our oldest was about 14 years old. We had been talking for some time about what felt to us, and it might sound to you like a super crazy idea, also related to going on a boat, which was that we wanted to learn how to sail and then live on a sailboat for a year with our kids before they started moving out. And I remember we'd been talking about this for a while. Like, I was pretty nervous. You were nervous for a variety of reasons. It was, we were anxious about it. And I remember sitting down at the dinner table, or for us, the breakfast table with our kids one morning, and our oldest was 14 years old, which is the perfect age for truth-telling.
For eyeball rolling, too.
And she asked us, I hear you talk about this a lot, but do you really have the guts to do it? And we were not sure if we had the guts to do it or not, but we knew we were either going to have to ante up or stop talking about it because we were losing credibility with our kids. And in the end, we ended up actually doing it. And for us, it took 4 years from idea to execution. It was amazing. We wrote a whole book about it called Seven at Sea.
If you're watching the YouTube version, I'm going to try and point. Yeah.
Anyway, wasn't planning on mentioning it at this time, but that is when we had some real experience of recognizing that as parents, we wanted to have credibility with our kids. And so we either needed to take more action or talk less about stuff that we weren't actually going to do.
Yeah. So, okay. And that was a long time ago, but we continue to exercise this principle. And is it okay if I share a more, as recently as last week had this come up. So had the good fortune to sit down with a Nashville record producer, really talented guy who happened to be in town, and we'd been introduced through mutual friends. And if you know me, you know that I love to play music, I love to write music, but I've never cut a record, never produced an album, partly because I don't know what's involved. I mean, for a solo recording artist, I've produced other kind of records, but this one I didn't know what was involved, kind of like this lady didn't know what was involved with an Alaskan cruise. And so I had a chance to sit down, have lunch with this guy, and he was over at our house, and he was great. And I just said, hey, can I confide in you and tell you something kind of crazy that I'd love to do? And I said, I kind of want to produce a record of some of the songs that I've written that I've been singing to my kids for years. And he said, oh, I could totally help you with that. Here's how it goes. And most importantly, not only did he say he'd help, but he said, and this is how much it would cost. And I was like, oh. And it wasn't an insignificant number, but it also wasn't like a trip to the moon. It wasn't like I'd be buying a second home or something. And so I was like, okay, that would still take some work, and I'd want to be ready with my material, and I'd have to get some funds in order somehow. But if I wanted to produce a record, now I know, just like with this lady, if she knows how much a trip to Alaska costs, then she can say, okay, I might need to save up $600 or $1,000 or $2,000. But then you have something to work towards. And so for me, I would say that my credibility is low with my kids in the category of recording my songs. But by taking this one simple action of just finding out what it would cost, I now have something to work towards. And that alone, I think, builds credibility. But also, as I work towards it, I build credibility with myself and my kids. And they won't roll their eyes at me the next time they say, oh, Dad's always talking about producing a record. Because guess what? I'm working on
producing a record.
There you go.
And I noticed I made a reference to taking a trip to the moon, and you made a reference to taking a trip to the moon. And so I just want to say that we would love to take a trip to the moon. So if you have any insights or leads on that, we could do that. Here's what we've done so far. There was a Japanese billionaire who was offering up 8 spots for a trip to the moon. And
you go around the moon. You don't actually
land
land
you go
on
around the moon. And that was good enough for me.
It's like flying over the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I was into it. And we made it through round 1 application. We wrote our essays. We made it through round 2, but we were not selected. So, yes, we have talked about going on a trip around the moon.
And we're working on that.
And that's what we've done so far.
So
if you want your kids to stop rolling their eyes at you, you can either stop talking about your big dreams, which is not what we recommend, We recommend
You keep talking about them.
keep talking about it and take some action. Google it.
take
Find
some
out
action.
find out where, when, and how much.
You know, what could go right?
What could go right.
That's what I'm saying.